When you open Victor Volley for the first time, the application is full of data. Left-click on the text Prepare for a new match, which is on the left side of the red row at the top of the screen. The application deletes all data and opens 3 additional workbooks to delete previous data and save all 4 of them. The cells of worksheet data are now empty. Press caps lock key on your keyboard. Type the name of the competition in the active cell, World Grands Prix 2017, and press Tab key. The active cell moves to the next cell where you type the name of the home team, or the team that you have chosen to be the home team. For this tutorial, type Italy as the home team and press Tab key. Type Brazil as the opponents and press Tab key. As this is the final match, both teams are already in application's database. Left-click on the text Insert Players in the middle of the screen. Your application's database contains only the teams of Italy and Brazil. The workbook teams can contain 20 teams. I will be back to this topic at the end of this tutorial. Application inserts the teams and positions the active cell at the beginning. To start scouting, you must fill the names of the teams and the shirt numbers of the players. You can add all other data during the match. I am going to continue with data input. Select the cell category and type senior and press Tab key. Usually, you move from cell to cell by pressing Tab key. Type pool or phase of the competition, final, and press Tab key. Type the match number, 64, and press Tab key. Type the gender, men or women, and press Tab key. Type the date, 06.08.2017, and press Tab key. Type the match starting time, HMN, 2000 hours, and press Tab key twice. Type the name of the hall, Olympic Sports Center, and press Tab key. Type the name of the city, Nanjing, and press Tab key. Type the number of spectators, 5,000, and press Tab key. Type the name of the country, China, and press Tab key. Type the data about the first referee, Zhang L, CHN, and press Tab key. Type the data about the second referee, Makrai J, SVK, and press Tab key. Usually, other data are not available. So, press Tab key to place the active cell to type the data about yourself, statistician, and press Tab key. Left-click the text Finish Data Input, that is in currently active cell. The application will calculate and save all open workbooks. When the process is done, the active cell is at the beginning of the worksheet data. The application now has all the data that are usual for newspaper and web. Left-click on the text Start New Match, Continue Scouting. This task will open other workbooks required for the scouting and display workbook 1.xlsm. On the right side of the screen are automatic tasks you use during the scouting. The last task, Back to Invert, is to invert any previous match. More about this topic in chapter Invert the Match. Every task has the yellow letter in its name. The letter is trigger for auto hotkey script, which place cursor over the rectangle and left click it. More about in chapter Auto Hotkey Scripts. At the top of the column is Task Publish All. This one you activate only once, and is available only on the first serve screen of the application. Left-click on the rectangle Publish All to replace old files in web folder. The workbook data will appear on the screen when the task Publish All is over. To go back to the workbook 1.xlsm, left-click on rectangle Back to Scout. Sometimes, on my computer configuration, this link does not respond. In that case, select Workbook by mouse, or by key combination Alt and Tab, which allows you to activate any open workbook or application or folder. Left-click the name of the competition, World Grand Prix 2017, to open home page of Virtual Statistician. You use Virtual Statistician without internet connection, anyway. When you open web browser, notification window may appear. It may vanish immediately. Check if it is still open, waiting for response. Left-click on thumbnail to activate it. Default setting is no. Left-click Yes to allow active content to access your computer. The active contents are refresh pages that assure you see the latest contents. Press function key F11 for full screen view in Edge and IE. Home page always redirects to the latest screen of confronted rotations. Latest or current screen shows situation on the volleyball field at the beginning of the serve or reception phase. 2 rows at the top of the screen contain numbers of the players. Click on player's number to view the attack points, trajectories and statistics. The page like this one from the beginning of the match will always display for the players without any attack. The side columns contain explanation in English language. Left-click on Text vs Live Score to change the home page. The live score view redirects you every 30 seconds to the current screen of confronted rotations. This view is better for scouts and internet audience. Use Alt and Tab keys combination to go back to the workbook 1.xlsm. Any link you select in this workbook will open in new browser window. When you select link, the active cell became the link cell. To go to the first cell that you must fill with data, left-click on rectangle, go to cell. The first set starts the opponent team, Brazil. Select Worksheet Pass 1 by left-click on Worksheet tab, or you may use Ctrl plus page down key combination. Active cell is in the red row beside the text player on serve. In this cell you type the number of the player on serve position. Type the number 9 and press Enter key. Left-click on rectangle, insert lineup. If the player on the serve position was included in the last lineup of the team, this task inserts it. If not, or if the team is not in the team's database, you must type the number of the player on serve on every screen of the team. The active cell is at the beginning of the row after the task was executed. The application needs to know the positions of the setters, and is recommended to type the setter's position code as soon as you find out his or her position. Type OSETA, which means opponent's setter is in zone A, and press Tab key. First libero from the list is included in the lineup by default. Type O14-O17I, which means opponent's number 14 out 17 in, and press Tab key. Left-click on the rectangle Start Set. The task Start Set records the time when the set starts, calculates all open workbooks, saves screen files to the web folder, and positions the active cell at the beginning of the next row. Activate browser window. The screen you see is identical to one where you have just typed the codes. If not, wait for few seconds and the live score will refresh the view. Click on result of the set in the middle of the screen to view press report. Activate the workbook 1.xlsm using mouse or Alt plus Tab key combination. Type O99P, which means opponent's number 9 serves tactically and number 9 of the home team receives perfectly, and press Tab key. Type 9D12A, which means number 9, of the home team, attacks from zone D and number 12, of the opponents, makes block attempt, and press Tab key. Left-click on rectangle Publish Web. This task calculates the recent inputs, publishes attack points, trajectories and screens of confronted rotations, positions the active cell and selects Next Worksheet, second serve screen. Type the number 10 in active cell, press Enter key, and click Insert Lineup. Type 10T12P, which means number 10 serves tactically and number 12 receives perfectly, and press Tab key. Type O12B F7, which means opponent's number 12 attacks from zone B and makes point on F7, press Tab key and click Publish Web. The active cell is in player on serve position. There are 2 reasons for this. If the team is not in the team's database, you must type the number, press Enter key and left-click on rectangle, go to cell. If the lineup is different from the one in your database, you must type the correct number, press Enter key, and left-click on rectangle, go to cell. When the number is correct, as in this tutorial, left-click on Go to Cell. Activate web browser. The numbers of the players who are currently in the game change the color of the background to make selection easier to do. Activate the workbook 1.xlsm. Type O12T9B, which means opponent's number 12 serves tactically and number 9 receives badly, and press Tab key. Type 18B5A, which means number 18 attacks from zone B and opponent's 5 makes block attempt, press Tab key and left-click on rectangle Publish Web. Left click on Go to Cell because the number of the player on serve is correct. Type the code for the position of the setter, SETD, which means setter is in zone D, and press Enter key. Type 18JE, which means number 18 makes jump serve error. Press Tab key and left click Publish Web. Left click Go to Cell because the player on serve is correct. Type 05T6G, which means opponent's 5 serves tactically and number 6 makes good reception, and press Tab key. Type 7B16T, which means number 7 attacks from zone B and opponent's number 16 makes block touch, and press Tab key. Type 011B9A, which means opponent's 11 attacks from B and number 9 makes block attempt, and press Enter key. Type 05JE, which means opponent's 5 makes jump serve error, press Tab key and left click Publish Web. Left click Go to Cell because the player on the serve is correct. Type 9JE, which means number 9 makes jump serve error. Press Tab key and left click Publish Web. Left click Go to Cell because the player on serve is correct. Look at the live score by activating web browser. The screen you see is situation before the first serve in confrontation between home team's 5th rotation in receiving phase and opponent team's 4th in service phase. Left click on 5th in the row of rotations on the home team's side to see the statistics of just finished confrontation. The statistics on this screen, and in team's attack points charts, will change after the same confrontation ends again in this set. This will give you enough time to analyze the teams and prepare the players for the next confrontation of the same rotations. Activate Workbook 1.xlsm. Type 011T9E, which means opponent's 11 serves tactically and number 9 makes reception error, and press Enter key. Type 011T6B, which means opponent's 11 serves tactically and number 6 receives badly, and press Tab key. Type 9FE, which means number 9 attacks from zone F and makes unforced error, and press Enter key. Type 011T9B, which means opponent's 11 serves tactically and number 9 receives badly, and press Tab key. Type 16D90, which means number 16 attacks from zone D and number 9 makes block overpass and press Tab key. Type 5N, which means number 5 makes negative dig and press Tab key. Type 017P, which means opponent's 17 passes perfectly, and press Tab key. Type 020B E4, which means opponent's 20 from B makes point on E4, and press Enter. Type 011TE, which means opponent's 11 serves tactically and makes error, press Tab key and click Publish Web. Click Go to Cell because the player on the serve is correct. Type 7J17P, which mean number 7 makes jump serve and 17 receives perfectly, and press Tab key. Type 011F50, which means opponent's 11 attacks from F and 5 makes block overpass and press Tab key. Type 017P, which means opponent's 17 passes perfectly, press Tab, and type 016DE7, which means opponent's 16 makes point from D on E7, press Tab and click Publish Web. The timeouts give us time to publish press report and players charts. Left click on Publish this to publish current screen and press report. When the previous task ends, click on rectangle Publish Players. Activate web browser, or left click the name of the competition. Click on Result of the set in the middle of the screen to view press report. From press report you have access to players charts and current rotations. Click on player's number, or role, or name, to view attack points trajectories. To select another player's chart, you must select to scout or to press link. The links to serve and pass rotations attacks charts of confronted rotations are at the bottom of the screen. Left click on 4th SE on the right side. We see attack statistics and points trajectories. Activate Workbook 1.xlsm. The active cell is the name of the competition in the left top corner. As the player on serve is correct, click on Go to Cell to position the cell. Type 016T9P, which means opponent's 16 serves tactically and number 9 receives perfectly, and press Tab key. Type 16D11P, which means number 16 attacks from zone D and opponent's 11 digs perfectly, and press Tab key. Type 012DA1, which means opponent's 12 attacks from D and makes point on A1, and press Tab key. Type 9E, which means number 9 makes dig effort on the square where the attack point has ended, and press Enter. Type 016T6P, which means opponent's 16 serves tactically and number 6 receives perfectly, and press tab key. Type 10b f6, which means number 10 attacks from B and makes point on square f6, press tab key and click publish web. Click go to cell because the player on the serve is correct. Type 5j17b, which means 5 makes jump serve and 17 receives badly, and press tab key. Type 020b f1, which means opponent's 20 attacks from zone B and makes point on f1, press tab and click publish web. Click go to cell because the player on the serve is correct. Type 020t16b, which means opponent's 20 serves tactically and number 16 receives badly, and press tab key. Type 18da1, which means number 18 attacks from D and makes point on a1, and press tab key. Type 016a, which means opponent's 16 makes dig effort on the square where the attack point has ended, press tab and click publish web. Click go to cell because the player on the serve is correct. Type 16t17n, which means 16 serves tactically and number 17 receives negatively, and press tab key. Type 10c9t, which means 10 attacks from C and 9 makes block touch, press tab, and type 012d9p, which means opponent's 12 attacks from D and 9 digs perfectly, and press tab key. Type 9d50, which means 9 attacks from D and 5 makes block overpass, press tab, and type 6p, which means 6 makes perfect dig, and press tab key. Type 10c50, which means 10 attacks from C and 5 makes block overpass, press tab, and type 5p, which means 5 makes perfect dig assistance, and press tab key. Type 9d9t, which means 9 attacks from D and opponent's 9 makes block touch, and press tab key. Type 016f18k, which means opponent's 16 attacks from F and 18 makes kill block point and press enter. Type 16j16g, which means 16 makes jump serve and opponent's 16 makes good reception and press tab key. Type 011fa1, which means opponent's 11 attacks from F and makes point on square a1, and press tab key. Type 16a, which means number 16 makes dig effort on the square where the attack point has ended, press tab and click publish web. Opponent team, Brazil, made complete rotation. The player who started the set is back on serve position. The publish web task has positioned the active cell. Type 09j16b, which means opponent's 9 makes jump serve and 16 receives badly, and press tab key. Type 18b-e7, which means number 18 attacks from B and makes point on e7, press tab key and click publish web. Home team, Italy, has finished one complete rotation too. On serve position is the player who made first serve for Italy in this set. Type 10j17p, which means 10 makes jump serve and number 17 receives perfectly, and press tab key. Type 05c-f7, which means opponent's 5 attacks from zone C and makes point on f7, press tab and click publish web. Type 012t9g, which means opponent's 12 serves tactically and number 9 makes good reception, and press tab key. Type 16f9c, which means number 16 attacks from zone F and number 9 makes dig chance, and press tab key. Type 016d18k, which means opponent's 16 attacks from zone D and number 18 makes kill block point, press tab and click publish web. Type 18j12b, which means number 18 makes jump serve and opponent's 12 receives badly, and press tab key. Type 016df2, which means opponent's 16 attacks from D and makes point on square f2, press tab and click publish web. Type 05j16p, which means opponent's 5 makes jump serve and number 16 receives perfectly, and press tab key. Type 7c16c, which means number 7 attacks from zone C and opponent's 16 makes chance dig, and press tab key. Type 011b9a, which means opponent's 11 attacks from B and number 9 makes block attempt, and press enter. Type T, which means home team calls for timeout, and press enter key. Always click on rectangle publish this during the timeout breaks. If you are keeping pace with the game, click publish players too. In that way you will not have many players charts to publish during the next timeout. Activate web browser. If you have changed to VS Live Score you will see the current screen of confronted rotations. Click on result of the set to view press report. The data change when it is published, during the timeouts and at the end of every set. Activate workbook 1.xlsm. Type 05T9P, which means opponent's 5 serves tactically and number 9 receives perfectly, and press tab key. Type 18A20A, which means 18 attacks from A and number 20 makes block attempt, press tab and click publish web. Type 9T17P, which means 9 serves tactically and number 17 receives perfectly, and press tab key. Type 020C7T, which means opponent's 20 attacks from C and number 7 makes block touch, and press tab key. Type 7C17C, which means 7 attacks from C and opponent's 17 makes chance dig, and press tab key. Type 012F70, which means opponent's 12 attacks from F and number 7 makes overpass block, and press tab key. Type 012C, which means opponent's 12 makes chance dig, and press tab key. Type 016D9C, which means opponent's 16 attacks from D and number 9 makes chance dig, and press tab key. Type 16D20E3, which means 16 attacks from D and number 20 makes block attempt directing the ball to E3, and press enter key. Type 9J12B, which means 9 makes jump serve and opponent's 12 receives badly, and press tab key. Type 011B16T, which means opponent's 11 attacks from B and 16 makes block touch, and press tab key. Type 011O, which means opponent's 11 makes other error touching the net while the game is in progress, and press enter key. Type 9T17P, which means 9 serves tactically and number 17 receives perfectly, and press tab key. Type 020C7C4, which means opponent's 20 attacks from C and number 7 makes block attempt redirecting the ball to C4, press tab and click publish web. Type 011T9G, which means opponent's 11 serves tactically and number 9 makes good reception, and press tab key. Type 7C17C, which means number 7 attacks from C and number 17 makes chance dig, and press tab key. Type 012FE, which means opponent's 12 attacks from F and makes error, press tab and click publish web. Type 7JE, which means number 7 makes jump serve error, press tab and click publish web. As the current rotation screen has been published with previous task, you click on publish this only if you want to publish the press report too. Otherwise, click only the rectangle publish players. Activate web browser. Click on 6th in column by volleyball field on home team side of the screen. The rotations of the teams, each one in different phase, played only once, so there is not enough data to make analysis. Activate workbook 1.xlsm. Type 016T16G, which means opponent's 16 serves tactically and number 16 makes good reception, and press tab key. Type 18A-F4, which means 18 attacks from zone A and makes point on square F4, press tab key and click publish web. Type 5J12P, which means number 5 makes jump serve and 12 receives perfectly, and press tab key. Type 020BE, which means opponent's 20 attacks from zone B and makes unforced error, and press enter. Type 5J12P, which means number 5 makes jump serve and opponent's number 12 receives perfectly, and press tab key. Type 011FE, which means opponent's number 11 attacks from zone F and makes unforced error, and press enter. Type 5J17P, which means number 5 makes jump serve and opponent's 17 receives perfectly, and press tab key. Type 020BE5, which means opponent's number 20 attacks from B and makes point on E5, and press tab key. Type 6E, which means number 6 makes dig effort on square where the point has ended, press tab and click publish web. Type 020-013I, which means opponent's number 20 goes out and number 13 goes in, and press enter. Click on F9 Calc to calculate all open workbooks. Look how the colors of the background in the top rows and numbers in line-up column have changed. Type 013T16B, which means opponent's 13 serves tactically and number 16 receives badly, and press tab key. Type 18D12A, which means number 18 attacks from D and opponent's 12 makes block attempt, press tab and click publish web. Type 16T17B, which means number 16 serves tactically and number 17 receives badly, and press tab key. Type O12 D18A, which means opponent's 12 attacks from D and number 18 makes block attempt, press tab, and click Publish Web. Type O9 T16B, which means opponent's 9 serves tactically and number 16 receives badly, and press tab key. Type 9 D5 D3, which means number 9 attacks from D and opponent's 5 makes block attempt directing the ball to D3, press tab and click Publish Web. Type 10 T13B, which means 10 serves tactically and number 13 receives badly, and press tab key. Type O12 B7T, which means opponent's 12 attacks from zone B and number 7 makes block touch, and press tab key. Type 18 B11 E5, which means number 18 attacks from B and number 11 makes block attempt directing the ball to E5, and press enter key. Type OT, which means opponent's timeout, and press enter. Click Publish this, and when task ends, click Publish Players. Type 10 J13B, which means number 10 serves tactically and number 13 receives badly, and press tab key. Type O11 D7T, which means opponent's 11 attacks from D and number 7 makes block touch, and press tab key. Type 9 D12A, which means number 9 attacks from D and opponent's 12 attempts to block, and press enter. Type 10 JE, which means number 10 makes jump serve error, press tab, and click Publish Web. Type O12 T9P, which means opponent's 12 serves tactically and number 9 receives perfectly, and press tab key. Type 18 BE3, which means number 18 attacks from zone B and makes point on E3, and press tab key. Type O13E, which means opponent's 13 makes dig effort on square where the point was made, press tab and click Publish Web. Type 18 JE, which means number 18 makes jump serve error, press tab, and click Publish Rotations. When the point ends before the attacks are made and the teams have completed 2 full rotations, you may click Publish Rotations instead of Publish Web. Type O13 O20I, which means opponent's 13 goes out and number 20 goes in, and press tab key. Type O5 O21I, which means opponent's 5 goes out and number 21 goes in, and press enter. Click F9 Calc to calculate recent codes and have current lineup of Brazil. Type O21 T9P, which means opponent's 21 serves tactically and number 9 receives perfectly, and press tab key. Type 5 CA8, which means number 5 attacks from zone C and makes point on A8, and press tab key. Type O9E, which means opponent's 9 makes dig effort on the square where the point has ended, press tab key and click Publish Web. Type 9 T17P, which means 9 serves tactically and number 17 receives perfectly, and press tab key. Type O11 B16A, which means opponent's 11 attacks from zone B and number 16 makes block attempt, press tab, and click Publish Web. Type O11 T9P, which means opponent's 11 serves tactically and number 9 receives perfectly, and press tab key. Type 7 C90, which means 7 attacks from C and number 9 makes block overpass and press tab key. Type 6C, which means number 6 makes chance dig, and press tab key. Type 18A11C, which means 18 attacks from zone A and number 11 makes dig chance, and press tab key. Type O12F7K, which means opponent's 12 attacks from zone F and number 7 makes kill block point. Press tab and click Publish Web. Type 703I, which means number 7 goes out and number 3 goes in, and press enter. Click F9 Calc to calculate all and have correct lineup of Italy. Type 3J12P, which means 3 makes jump serve and number 12 receives perfectly, and press tab key. Type O16D18C, which means opponent's 16 attacks from D and number 18 makes chance dig, and press tab key. Type 5S, which means number 5 makes skill error, press tab, and click Publish Web. Type 307I, which means number 3 goes out and 7 goes in, and press tab key. Type 0904I, which means opponent's 9 goes out and 4 goes in, and press enter. Type O16T9P, which means opponent's 16 serves tactically and number 9 receives perfectly, and press tab key. Type 10B12O, which means number 10 attacks from zone B and opponent's 12 makes block overpass, and press tab key. Type 18P, which means 18 digs perfectly, and press Tab key. Type 16D20K, which means 16 attacks from Zone D and opponent's 20, makes kill block point, and press Enter. Type T, which means time out of the home team, Italy, and click Publish this. When the previous task ends, click Publish Players. Type O16J9B, which means opponent's 16 makes jump serve and number 9 receives badly, and press Tab key. Type 16D16C, which means number 16 attacks from Zone D and opponent's 16 makes chance dig, and press Tab key. Type O12D10O, which means opponent's 12 attacks from D and number 10 makes block overpass, and press Tab key. Type O11C, which means opponent's 11 makes chance dig assistance, and press Tab key. Type O12D5A, which means opponent's 12 attacks from Zone D and number 5 attempts to block, and press Enter. Type O16T16G, which means opponent's 16 serves tactically and number 16 makes good reception, and press Tab key. Type 18A20A, which means number 18 attacks from Zone A and opponent's 20 attempts to block, press Tab and click Publish Web. Type O409I, which means opponent's number 4 goes out and number 9 goes in, and press Enter. Type 5J12P, which means number 5 makes jump serve and opponent's 12 receives perfectly, and press Tab key. Type O20BA1, which means opponent's 20 attacks from B and makes point on A1, press Tab and click Publish Web. Type O2105I, which means opponent's number 21 goes out and 5 goes in, and press Enter. Type O20T6P, which means opponent's 20 serves tactically and number 6 receives perfectly, and press Tab key. Type 18DE, which means 18 attacks from Zone D and makes error, press Tab and click Publish Web. When the set ends, you first click on rectangle Publish Players. After the previous task has ended, click on End Set. The workbook data will appear on the screen. Before proceeding to second set, I usually check most visible scouting errors from press report. Click Text View Press. The press report you see is not the one we publish on web. The most visible error is difference between the result and number of serves. The sum of the points, 50, must be equal to the sum of serves. If there were not the penalty points between the points, click on Text Back to Data. Click on Text Second Set in the top red row. While the application gets ready for the second set, activate web browser. On the last screen of the set, click Rotations name of the team in serve phase, to see the first of 12 screens that are available for analysis. To go forward, click the Rotations name of the team in serve phase. Every screen shows the result at the end of that serve or pass phase of confronted rotations. The current screen, during the play, shows the result at the beginning of the confrontation. Only the rotations names in the middle of the row change the phase of rotation of the home or opponent team, depending on whose serve phase of the rotation you click. The other team changes phase and rotation. The rotations names that follow, to the left and right side, always display the confrontation in the same phases as in previous screen. The rotations names in columns beside the volleyball field in the center of the screen open the attack points, trajectories and statistics of selected rotation in the phase of the screen you analyze. When you select any rotation of the home team, the opponent's attack points, trajectories and statistics of the rotation that confronts your team are shown too. From the attack points trajectories charts you can reach all rotations and phases. Click Second SE to look at attack points trajectories of the home team from serve phase of second rotation. All attack points trajectories charts, rotations and players, have English explanations inside columns. Italian third in serve phase confronts Brazilian first in pass phase. The same charts appear when you select first PA of Brazil. The players' charts are accessible from scouting screens and press report. The player whose number has background color different from the screens, is or was in the game. Select the number 18 of Italian team. To select another player, you must go back to Scout or to Press Report. Click to Press, where you can see attack statistics of all players. Select number 12, Natalia Pereira, from Brazilian team. If you have changed to VS Live Score, then you don't need to select to Scout or to Press. The page will redirect to Scout automatically after 30 seconds. Activate the workbook 1.xlsm. The second set starts the home team. Type 16 in active cell, press enter and click rectangle insert lineup. Type SETF, which means setter of the home team, Italy, is in zone F. Press tab key and click start set. Type 16J17P, press tab key, type 05C7E1, press tab key and click publish web. In the active cell type 12, press enter key and click insert lineup. Type OSETF, press tab key, type 014O17I, and press enter. Click F9 calc to calculate the data about confronted rotations in this set. Type 012J16P, press tab key, type 9DF2, press tab and click publish web. The teams almost never confront the same rotations as in previous set. Click the name of the competition in the top left corner to open web browser. In current confrontation, home team's third rotation serves into the second of opponents. Click on second to change the phase of the opponent's rotation. Click on the link second in attack points trajectories column of the opponents. As the setter's position of the opponents was not known to the application, the empty chart appears instead of the second rotation serve phase attacks. That's why you must enter the positions of setters as soon as possible. Click to scout to go back to the current rotations screen. Full analysis takes just 3 clicks. Select the rotation to analyze. The sixth rotation has the worst result. You can analyze the statistics by clicking on the rotations link, or skip to the attack points trajectories by clicking the link in the column beside the volleyball field. The attack charts of the confronted rotations are not correct at the beginning of the set. Find the same background color in the opponent's column. That is the rotation you are confronting in current set. We see the confrontation from the previous set, because in this set the sixth rotation of Italy hasn't played yet. To see the correct chart of the opponents, you must select the rotations link. In this case click on 5th PA, which means the pass phase of the 5th rotation. When both teams complete one full rotation, from the moment you have typed the setter's positions, the charts will be correct. Activate the workbook 1.xlsm. Click Go to Cell to position the active cell. Type 7, press Enter and click Go to Cell. Type 7, press Enter and click Go to Cell. Type 7, press Enter and click Go to Cell. Type 7T17B, press Tab, and type 011B10O, press Tab and type 012N, press Tab, and type 16P, press Tab and type 10CA7 and press Enter. Type 7T12P, press Tab, and type 011B10T, press Tab and type 18B12P, press Tab, and type 5CF6, press Tab and click Publish Web. You must check the result every time the breakpoint occurs. The receiving team always wins only 1 point. That is the breakpoint. When we make an error and publish it, we click on Correct Publish. That will set the publishing parameters and display previous confrontation. You must position the active cell on the cell with the error. Type the new code, 05CF2, press Tab and click Publish Web. The new files replace those you have previously published, and you may continue by clicking on Go to Cell because the player on serve is correct. Type 05J16P and press Tab, type 10CD1, press Tab key and click Publish Web. Click Go to Cell because the player on serve is correct. We are going to stop here. Click on Back to Data. If workbook data.xlsm does not appear on the screen, use Alt plus Tab key combination to activate it, or do it by mouse. Find Interrupt in top red row and click it to save all workbooks. You may continue with this match, or start new one. To continue this match press Alt plus F key combination. From File menu page select Open. Find file WGP17GME.xlsx, which is in your VV9 folder. I will find it from my folder VV9 Pro. Select the file to display it in the file name box, and press Enter or click Open. The file opens in state as when was the last saved. We are on first rotation serve screen of the application. Every set has 50 rows, so active cell is at the beginning of the second set. Activate workbook 1.xlsm and look in which rotation and phase we stopped. Activate the edabracodes.xlsx and select the same sheet tab, Serve 3. Go to the cell A51 and type these codes into the 1.xlsm as in the first set. I recommend moving active cell as it moves in 1.xlsm, to not miss any code. Every set, when ends, has the same procedure as the first set. In the top red row, you click on the third set when end set task has finished. If your match is not over in 3 sets, repeat procedure for 4th set, 5th set or golden set. When the last set of the match ends, click the text finish in the same row. This task saves the codes of the last set, saves the teams and formations, creates M0001 and MR001 for future use, saves match codes, and saves all open workbooks. It is suitable to make all about analysis files after the match. Click Archive to make both teams' analysis files in a few minutes. The last macro task, invert, at the right end of the red row, inverts the match. It is useful when making cumulative all-about analysis of the team. When running finish of inverted match, you may be prompted to save some files with different names. The same can happen when archive task saves the files. It is important to find your own way how to name and organize the files.